Are you looking to build an ADU but don't know where to start? Or are you looking to build wealth with real estate and you're tired of receiving a runaround from the experts who are supposed to guide you through the process? If this is you, stop what you're doing and listen to this video. And then once it's complete, you have to take the next step. Make a call and talk to the experts. Myself, my knowledgeable team, and Dr. Sharon Barnes can take you from step A to the finished product and help you build the ADU that you've been waiting for and finance it in your backyard, whether it's for your mother, whether it's for your kids, or whether it's to rent out to bring in extra income. You have to make the decision to move forward. It's that simple. Stop the procrastination and let's do this. TR, the loan guy, signing out. All right. First of all, thank you guys for showing up today. Thank you for coming. I see familiar faces. We did some deals in the past, so thank you. And I know that everyone's here to say, how can we take advantage of ADUs and build either financial wealth, financial legacy, or just to improve our standard of living? Oh, yeah. It's going to keep happening. You may close the door. Yes, thank you so much. First and foremost, I want to say thank you again for coming. It's my pleasure to introduce my good friend, Dr. Sharon Barnes. I've known Dr. Barnes for at least now 6 years. I remember walking into, I believe it was Caldwell Banker at the time, and introduced myself to her. And we had a sit down conversation, and she says, okay, but can you deliver? I said, yeah, I can deliver. He said, you talk a good game, but can you deliver? I said, I can deliver. And ever since then, we've been like peas in the pod. Okay. Everything I do, she do. Everything she do, I do. And she's taught me so much about ADUs. Okay. Not only is she, well, she was a radio host. She is a realtor. She's also a doctor. She has a doctorate in law. Her brain is pretty big, guys. Okay. So she knows what she's talking about. And she has a great YouTube channel, podcast, and she's always doing philanthropy work. She's also talking to people on how to develop financial independence through real estate and ADUs. So put your hands together and help me welcome my good friend, the one and only Dr. Sharon Barnes.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks again for bracing all this unexpected chaos and traffic that we have in the area. But I'm so glad that you came out, and I'm so excited to share with you about accessory dwelling units. As I was preparing over the last few weeks for this presentation, I kept going through and just going down rabbit holes because there's so much involved in accessory dwelling units. And I have worked with hundreds of homeowners. I work with various companies, and I've actually gone out and did site evaluations, sat down with families. And so the questions, the issues, I wanted to get clarification on some issues. There's a lot of things that are marketing terms and information that when you really try to put them into reality, they don't fit. And so it's like I could have done a standard presentation, talk about the new ADU laws, talk about how even though these new state laws are there, when it comes to your city, your county, your particular lot, it might not apply. I could give you all this stuff so you could have left here basically like I do in a lot of seminars that I attend with a lot of pieces like a puzzle. And then you go out and try to see how you can put that puzzle together to fit your property. I thought that maybe a better way was recently I have become an authorized dealer with Lightmod and ADU Concepts that I've been having a connection with now for over 7 years. They've built over 200 ADUs, they have built Hilton hotels and multi-family apartments that we drive by all day, all over LA and different places. And with the information that they have, the systems, the processes that they have, it gives you a framework. So it's not that as we go through and look at their product and we talk about the laws, because I want to use that as a framework, just make it real, right? So we have something to look at. But every stage of the ADU journey that they go through is what you need to go through if you are DIYer, if you're going to do it yourself, if you're going to hire your own contractor, your own architect, and be your own project manager, whether you're going to go with another company that is a ADU builder from beginning to end. What I found under ADU Advantage, I am a consultant, a strategist working with families. That company came about because I saw a gap in between the homeowner and property owners who wanted to build an ADU and the contractors who had pivoted sometime from building new homes to building ADUs. So you want it, they say they can deliver it. But there's a gap in the education and understanding your family dynamics, understanding your lot. And so when things get going, they had questions. I saw the gap as an opportunity to work as a consultant to walk by your side. When you have engaged the contractor and they start working your backyard, and you like, that don't look like what I agreed to. That footprint is not going to support my 900 ADU. I mean, I don't the architect and the contractor and their subcontractors are not the people that you go in your backyard. We've had people go in the backyard and say, who's that person? Who's that? I don't know you. Well, when you hire a contractor or you hire a company, they have staff. When they start breaking ground for the construction, there's going to be specialists and skilled labor and all kind of people coming in that you haven't seen. It takes a team and definitely a village to do an ADU. And so if you think that you're talking to me and all you get is me, when I bring the team in, from the finance person to the contractor to the architect to project managers or whatever, everybody comes in to make that foundational agreement, that foundational dream that you have a reality. And we understand what it takes. Now, one of the questions that I get, the first question that I get most of the time as a consultant, people see information online, they see me at a presentation, they call and they say, I live in ABC City and I want to put an ADU in my backyard. How much does it cost? Like, I can answer that question. There's so much that we need to know before. And so it make it seem like it's kind of all the marketing kind of dumbs it down and it seems like real easy. But calling me, asking me how much an ADU costs is like deciding that you want a car, going to a Honda dealer or Mercedes dealer, driving a lot, getting out and say how much Mercedes costs, what style, leather, cloth. I mean, all these things we have to ask. And before you pull in that lot, the better question is, how much can you afford or how much are you expecting to pay? Because when you decide to go to Mercedes versus Hyundai, you knew what you could afford, where your credit was, what you could put together, and the product that they had. So when you go in there and you're talking to a salesperson, they at least have a way to guide you because they're going to ask you, why did you come in here? What are you looking for? Let's talk. And then if you can't get that top of the line limited edition, they'll say, well, you can start here. You can lease it or you can buy it, and then a year you can come in and trade up. So we need to think about the ADUs that way as well. Okay, so ask them how much it costs. Anyone who answers that question without knowing anything about you, your finances, your property, is guessing. And they might give you a guess that resonates with you. I still get these calls about where my friends said they can do a garage conversion for $50,000. That was 7 or 8 years ago. You missed that. But is it still worth the 100,000? is it still worth? It's not simple math. We have to look at it. The return on investment that we'll talk about is different when it comes to ADUs, because what I found in dealing with a lot of families, the initial usage of the ADU is for family members and adult kids. Most of the time, they'll say, I'm not going to charge my mother rent. So they're looking at it as a debt. Can I afford this unit and to pay everything? Well, I've also worked with families to tell them how to treat that ADU like a business. And we need to charge mom rent, especially if she's on a fixed income, because certain type of incomes, they're not allowed to stack dollars. Everybody is expected to pay something for their living expenses. The thing is, no one tells you what to do once you collect it from mom. So if she's getting Social Security, you charging her a reasonable rent per month. You take that, put it in the trust, put it in the account, and you use that money for her housekeeper to send her grandkids, to send her on a cruise. You recycle that dollar, but you got that dollar from mom, and you can use it for her care. But on paper, taxes, everything, she's paying for that. A person that's not paying rent or a mortgage, if they're, I think last time I looked, it was like, I think they said if you're like 25 years old and you're not paying rent or mortgage, they're considering you homeless. You're considered homeless or at risk of homeless, because if I'm 25 years old, staying with my mom, who's 85, life happens and mom is no longer there, and I don't have a job, a work history, enough credit to go out and get my own place, I'm gonna end up on the street or on somebody else's couch. And that's the reality of what we're living with. And so you really have to look at, to truly leverage accessory dwelling units and the strategy, we have to treat it like a business. Yes, ma'am.
When you run into cases like that, you're not talking about trust or anything like that. So the child who's living with their 85-year-old mother can inherit the house that she's paid for all her life.
So we can deal with trust, and that's one of the things that I love as well. Like you said, I'm a former attorney. I practiced for like 25 years. I understand trust and contracts and so forth, and so I'm able to work with families on that level too. What I've been able to do with a lot of families is to sit down and tell them how to show them how to use that trust as basically a business. If you have a vital, complete trust, you have under that trust the ability to purchase, sell, invest, do stocks, take care of the finances and the health care of the beneficiary. So it's basically an informal business. If you're a business person and you've been in business all your life, or you ran a couple of businesses and you want to do an LLC or a family partnership or something like that, then we can help you go there. But the average person, it is a major hurdle to get them to do the trust. So if they have the trust, then it needs to be like I said, like treated like the landlord. So this one situation, lady wanted to build the ADU in her mother's backyard. First of all, people were saying that if your name is not on the property, you can't get the loan to build the ADU in somebody else's backyard. Well, Mr. TR here got the mother and the daughter qualified for that ADU within 14 days. So they had the money to build in the backyard, first of all. Then the sibling said, what you mean? You're going to have a house in the backyard, so if something happened to mom, you get like all the property? And it's like that wasn't the mother's desire and that wasn't her intent. So we put in place a living trust that the mother was able to say, the main house goes to my son and his brother can live here. I intend this to be family, not to be sold. This ADU is for my daughter and her children to live there, okay? We will split the property taxes, we will split the maintenance. She pays the rent equal to the mortgage payment. She pays it into the living trust's account every month, and the living trust pays the loan payment back. Benefit of that, if you sell, if you refinance, if any third party want to look at that property, the trust and all that documentation regarding that property is there. No one has to go into the mother's account, go into the daughter's account, and get all personal. Okay, so you have a trust, and sometimes we have documents, and we even have businesses, and we have the business, and we say we're in business, but we running everything out of our personal bank account, and we're paying everything, and we're not documenting that we're loaning the money to our corporation, that we gave them a line of credit. I mean, there's ways to do almost anything, but you have to understand the flow. And it's not for just the benefit of you and your siblings or your family, it's for third parties that come in after you're dealing with stressful situations to see what the intent. So to have the family be able to document how the property would be divided, how it's going to be maintained while mother's there, because she was on a fixed income. She can't pay that loan back. You don't want to lean against your mother's property for ADU because you default on the loan. So all that was been able to be documented, put in place, and the family could sit down with the strategist and understand and get all their questions answered before any tragedy or without having emotional situations going on at the time. Because when you're in a crisis or in a state of loss, that's not the time to make major decisions. So, did I answer your question a little bit?
I listened to all of it and
Okay.
walk around it.
Okay.
You
Okay. Okay. So, um, just a little bit of how, let me just say how I got here in this ADU space. First of all, I was introduced to ADUs as a investor, active member of the Inland Riverside uh, Investment Club that was me down at the Mission Inn. 7, 8 years ago, investors were starting then to purchase property with the intent to split the house or convert the garage and so forth. And so I start seeing how investors, small investors, new investors, were looking at this as an opportunity. Secondly, I took a um, advantage of a course that said, hey, taking your business to the next level in real estate. ADUs was kind of coming out, and we were looking, well, how does that afford with a realtor? Because on the real estate arena, it's about buying, selling, and investing in real estate. When you're dealing with the ADU, most ADUs are being bought and they're not, I mean, being built and they're not sold. A realtor couldn't see how they could make a commission off of it, so they weren't really concerned about it. But it's started merging now over into the real estate market, driven by the buyer who says, hey, I want to buy a house with a lot large enough to build an ADU for my mother. And a realtor saying, okay, I can help you. They don't really understand ADUs, but they show you houses with a nice backyard, 10,000 square feet, 1,200 square feet lot, 12,000 square feet lot, and they eyeball it, and y'all agree that's a lot of space back there. And you buy it with that intent, only to find out that it has some soil issues, some liquid fraction. You out in Joshua Tree and you got 3 wells on the property and you can't build where the water table is at. I mean, all kind of issues, but your expectation, because you told the realtor what you wanted, because now it's translating over into real estate, it's hard for the average consumer to know where that realtor's expertise stops. Okay, so I'm working with realtors and everything. We're trying to educate them a little bit more. But what realtors don't know and what buyers don't know is that there are resources out there like myself, contractors, um, different nonprofit associations that are available for you to get some preliminary information without paying money or at least a lot of money. Okay, one of the things when we're talking about buying real estate is that in the real estate contract, standard in California is like 17 days inspection period. Up until this market here with the ADUs, realtors and everybody involved, when we think about doing the inspection period, two primary things happen. It's home inspection and termite inspection. If there's a problem with termite, we have to do that. If we see some brown spots or discoloration in the bathroom, we may have to get a mold person to make sure it's no mold. Then we get a home inspector that comes in on behalf of the buyer to go down to the skeleton to see health and safety and everything. Now In that 17-day period, if someone is looking to build an ADU, you also would be very diligent to reach out to a contractor, ADU specialist, an architect that can at least preliminarily tell you that there's no red flags that you shouldn't be able to proceed under state law. Yes, ma'am.
Would you check with your city? Would you be able to get a geological survey? Are those things, like I remember as a child, my parents getting some information on their house over in LA on Main Street about oil rights and mineral rights underneath their property. And back in the seventies, I think you got
Yeah.
a couple of $100 a month. Where would get those geological surveys from?
They're available, and you got the GISA and online. We got a lot of software. The cities and state have links and so forth. But again, that's pieces. You can get the survey, go down and talk to the planner who doesn't interpret the state law the way you're looking at state law, and you're not the geological expert. You just have a report, so we can get it. But it really is to have people who can talk the language. It's kind of like being an attorney. You either going to go in and defend yourself and they're going to hold you to understand the law, or you're going to get somebody who can talk the language.
Saying would that be with the city? You get a geological survey, would you be working with the city that you're living in to help you interpret what you can build there and what their local laws are?
Okay, so let me answer this way. Okay, so I'm gonna take some levels. So I know you asked the question. Don't get frustrated with me, but this is just the way you have to look at it. First of all, how did we get here? We have state laws now that say basically any homeowner that can meet the setbacks can put at least 2 additional living units on their property. They started at the local level, and just as many people that's interested in building ADUs, there's not in my backyard people that says you're not building anything. So your neighbor was telling you you couldn't build it, and it was getting to local jurisdiction, local politics. State says, hey, we have a housing crisis. It's all hands on deck. The big boys can't build us out of this. We have and here in the Inland Empire, we have lots that are R5 or have one house on 5 acres. That was great 20 years ago. Now we need to build additional housing. So if you're able, we want you to put housing on there. And we know that it's been prohibitive because of, say, impact fees. Let's look at Moreno Valley before the ADU laws. My partner and I were looking to invest in the property. Impact fees, which is fire, school, all those little fees they add on, was $45,000. That was not the drawings. That was not the permit fees. That was not construction. You had to pay $45,000 to even start talking to them. Okay, so the ADU laws came to remove some of the barriers, lessen some of the restrictions, and hopefully empower average homeowners, people who have never built or bought a new house or developed anything, to add additional dwelling units. Okay? When you're talking about working with your city, you will be working with your city and county. But again, let me give you an example. Right here in Riverside County, I have a client who has 2.5 acres of land. They have 2 units on that property. They want to build additional dwelling units. According to state law, if it's considered 2 on a lot, they should be able to build 2 detached ADUs. The county says that their understanding of the law is that they can have 1 detached ADU and convert a garage. So right now, all they can do is convert a garage. But that's not correct on the state law for that particular property. So what happens from there? The county says, if you want to pursue this and think that you're right and you want this law to apply, you have to fill out an application. With that application, you have to submit a conceptual drawing. You have to show the proposed location of your ADU. You have to show all the septic, the connection. So you got a whole schematic and stuff and all this stuff there. You have to do the geological surveys, get the site plan, do all this stuff. So you don't get it from the county. They're expecting you to go there with your package and they will review it. So doing that type of package, we have to get someone that can go in. I mean, I would want someone that can not only go in and negotiate what the law means and be an advocate for me for the 80 to getting the 280Us, but once the county says yes or says yes with some type of modification, this same team can move it and start building it. Okay, so you can get the geological surveys, you can get the zoning reports. The county has a site where you can go and get a full report that'll tell you everything about your property. It'll tell you when it was built, the zoning, the land use, all the permits that's been issued against it. If there's been any cases of it being unpermitted or anything, you can get all that and you'll have that information. Of course, the more information you have, the better conversation you can have with your local jurisdiction. But they're just conversations, and they're going to tell you that until you submit an application and go through the formal process where they can submit it to the various department and get official responses back to you, it doesn't really mean much. Yes. So, I'm sorry. Did you had a follow up or did I?
I mean, you gotta start somewhere. You gotta
Right.
get your information.
Okay.
Yeah, you're free.
Okay. So what where I think you start, first of all, we have to get real about the ADUs, okay? They're not tiny homes. Tiny homes are a niche and industry in and of itself. I think that they had a big, robust impact a few years ago, and then everything kind of got merged together. Basically, tiny homes are on motor vehicle chassis. People thought they can take a horse trader, take a van, take anything, make it into a living unit, and put it in your parents' backyard and live in it every day. The reality came that when code enforcement found out about you living in this trailer or this tiny home, they required to be moved. And most of these tiny homes ended up in a mobile home park. So tiny homes are great for certain niche and type of people. But if you're thinking about living in them, you might end up in a mobile home park, still paying land rent and having to hook up the utilities. Or they have tiny home communities and they travel across the country because they just like nature. And so it's like having a mobile home. But a tiny home is kind of like living in an RV in your driveway every day and renting it out, and that's not permitted. An ADU is more like the opportunity to build a custom home in your backyard. And if you think about it like a custom home, you're talking about new construction, you're talking recessed lighting, high end appliances, energy efficient. You can put smart technology in there. You got fire retardant, you got everything going for it. And you can build that in your backyard, say a 2 bedroom, 2 bath. There I will say that in our area, the if you want to go cost per square footage because people want some kind of gauge, it's 250 to 300 dollars a square foot, give or take $50. Okay, but it varies. That's just a starting point and just to have a reference. So you need to look back and say, where can I, especially in Southern California, buy a brand new two bedroom, 2 bath house, 3 bedroom, 2 bath house for $300,000. And it's really you really can't. And you can do it in your backyard. You can use it for rent and get the highest rent. You can do it for visiting nurses or special clientele and everything. A lot of people that I've dealt with, as I say, they're building it for their mother, their adult kids. And what they do is say, phase one, we have to think in terms of phases. Phase one, I'm going to get it built and it's going to be for my mother. When that's no longer needed, then I'm going to rent it out. So the return on investment includes not only the typical calculations that an investor would do, but it also is if having that ADU in your backyard with your mother saves $4,000 to $8,000 to have her in a facility. Is it worth it? Okay, with you being able to see the nurses, see that she's taken care of, and heaven forbid we go through anything like we did before, looking through a window, I mean, you can take care of your parents there. So that's part of the return on investment that people are calculating. Had a client, and she simply said, I'm building the ADU because my son is too grown. He wants to come in at all times of night, and he's on my nerves opening the door at 3 o'clock in the morning. Okay? So I'm going to build this ADU. I'm going to charge him rent. He can go out and party, hang out with his friends. He's going to come down the side of that driveway, go into his unit, and he can be as grown as he wants to outside my house. We're going to save that money, and when we get enough, we're going to go and help him buy help him buy a home and then build an ADU. And by that time, his brother would be in the backyard. That was her transitional plan to get her kids from the main house onto their own 2 feet. So people are doing all type of things to with the ADUs. Where do you get started? I think one thing besides kind of being real about what you're building, you need to. It's not really new. A couple things I'll say, and then we'll get maybe further in the presentation. But it's not really new with the ADUs. What it is, we've been putting 2 houses on a lot, building fourplexes, duplexes. Residential zoning allows up to 4 units. We've been doing that for years. Again, we have a shortage, and they wanted more people to participate in the building and creation of houses. Number one. So that's how we came from that. But you can still buy raw land and you can build a custom house. And while you're building that custom house, you can still build an ADU. Okay, so yes, sir.
How are we doing it in these areas where we have these homeowners associations?
The law says that a homeowner association cannot prohibit you from doing an ADU. What, but again, when I tell you that it varies city to city and county to county, the same goes for the HOAs. So it's not HOAs in general, because I can tell you from experience in dealing with certain people, we're talking about the HOAs with tract homes. Okay. But if you look at those HOAs, they have designed it where most of the time you cannot meet the setbacks. The setbacks for ADU is 4 feet from your property line. Your lot and your patio, you can't do anything 4 feet from your property line. And there's a requirement in some areas where you be 10 feet from the roof line of the main house. So the lots are not big enough in an HOA to build a detached ADU. However, the conversation goes with the garage. Okay, can I convert it? And they're not supposed to be able to preclude you, but when you signed and bought in that HOA, there might have been parking requirements. You take away the parking, because some HOAs, when you go in there, it says no street parking overnight. Okay, so if you take away your garage and it doesn't even have a full driveway, just has a lip on it, okay, you're in violation. All right, so it's hard. So if you're thinking about an ADU before you purchase an HOA, you would want to like generally stay away. Would choose your battles. Okay, so the state law says that they can't prohibit you, but there's requirements. On the other end, I've had clients in communication with people over in, especially like Orange County, Irvine. They have HOAs, but they have huge, beautiful lots that's like 20,000 square feet. They have a huge custom home. They got a circular driveway with a 3-car garage. Their HOA says, yeah, you can build the ADU. Okay, it just has to look like your house. If you have a tile, they can do the front of the garage because they still got parking on there, so it's not on the street. They have enough in the back of the house to be able to detach. It just has to look like. I mean, I don't even really have to go to I don't really have to go to Irvine because we have over in like Woodcrest and different ones. I mean, we had a client and he had like 3 entrances to his yard. He has this huge yard where he can build an ADU. It's all on his property. He can meet the setbacks, and the city and the county can't preclude him from doing so. Okay, so it just depends on the HOA and what type of, what you're dealing with. but they can't just not to tell you can't have it, period. Yes, ma'am. Do they have grants to help you get started? There was a grant. I participated in the grant. The grant was $40,000. First year that they issued it, it was they gave $50 million to it. The second year they gave $25 million to it. It lasted about an hour. They had a waiting list of over 5,000 people. It showed that people were interested in building ADUs, wanted help building ADUs, and the money would be utilized for that. However, when the budget came out, they decided to reallocate that money more towards the homeless and building those apartments and transitional housing. So there's no current state grant for ADUs. However, there are certain cities that have city grants where they're helping you with incentives to build ADUs. So you'd have to check with your city and county to see if it's anything. And that brings to the other point. This is kind of like the other thing to get started is to think of the ADUs like when you're buying a home. You have to start, you have to open escrow. You got to get an offer accepted. So you have to know what you want, what you're looking for. You have to be able to articulate that. And then we open escrow. Once we open escrow, then we get into if you have a pre-approval or pre-qualification, which is TR3M that he'll talk about, then you start firming that up to get approved so you can get funded. The same thing applies here in ADUs, but we need to think about the soft costs. The soft cost is like our earnest money in real estate. The soft cost includes your drawings, your permit fees, anything that the county says that or city says you might need, and it's basically can be defined as anything other than the construction. If it's not direct construction, it's soft costs, and you're going to have to start usually with some out of your pocket. We have to have some type of earnest money into the ADU. Now, with certain loan types, certain grants with the cities and different things, you could end up at the end getting all or most of that back, but you have to start somewhere. So, what you need to actually start the journey, the construction journey of an ADU, is that you need to have the permits. To get the permits, you have to have the drawings. Most of us have not seen drawings or know what drawings are, but we're talking about those CAD drawings. Most cities and counties require 3 sets. They got hundreds of paper, these big old rolls that they have to deliver. I mean, and people, because you never built before, it's like going in, we never built a car. We don't know all the specs to go in there. I mean, I had one lady, I'm talking to her about getting the drawing sets and getting the permits, and the drawings average between $10,000 to $20,000. They can be less, they can be more, but say $10,000 to $20,000 for a set of drawings. And these drawings are just not like renderings, okay? Because the lady asked me, she said, "Why? What are you saying that I have to pay for drawings? I sent you a picture that I printed off the internet. I showed you what I wanted." The details that go into building something to the building code, this is not exempt. You are building an ADU to the same standard as the new home builder, Lewis or anybody else. And you have to meet all the same requirements. That's why it takes a team. So you need the drawings. And truly, until you get the drawings and you get the permits where the city or county say, yes, you can actually build this on your property. At that point, you can go ask an ADU contractor, builder, developer, how much does it cost? And because they can give you a line item with everything that's being required to meet the requirements of those drawings, they can tell you and they can cost it out. Before the city tells you what you can build, anybody to tell you how much the ADU is costing is basically guessing. They can tell you about the unit, but they don't know about how much the site's going to be. They don't know if you want separate meters because you're going to rent it out and you want separate electric meters so that your tenants pay and you don't have to be getting electric bill marking it up or who pays what. They don't know, are you on septic or are you on sewer? They don't know how far you are from the fire hydrant. All those things come into play. They can give you an idea. But someone like the company with Light Mods and ADU Concept, they have the system down and it's very transparent and it utilizes technology. You can see what they can do. They can price it out because they've done it 100 times. They go through when they talk to you, when they do the site assessment, they tell you the particular requirements that might be unique to your property, and they can give you an estimate for that. But you can't stand on the side and see how much the ADU is going to be on the other side without getting in the water. Yes, ma'am. And then I'll go to
My question is, okay, you're saying that, this thing is gonna be like a custom home. So what, in your experience and expertise, is the difference between, do I wanna get a custom home built from the ground up, or going to like a company like a box or a studio shed, and then
Yeah.
that?
Okay.
What would be that difference?
Okay. The difference is I said a custom home to really do a mindset that ADU is not a shed. An ADU is real estate. An ADU has to be the same quality and standard of the house that you're living in or above. When people say they're selling ADUs on Amazon, or I can go down to Home Depot, they say it looks just like a house, and I can stand up and I can, okay, Barbie house looks like a house. Everything that looks like a house is not real estate, okay? And this isn't new. We have modular construction. We have mobile homes. One of the first lessons that I had to like come to an aha is that I can eyeball it. I have a modular home manufacturer that does. I found out what a park model was. So I go up and I have a park model. I have a mobile module, and I have a modular model. They look identical. It's not how they look to your eye, it's how they're constructed. What's in the wall? What is the beams? What's the installation? There's different standards. And we've known this for years. We know what mobile homes are. We graduated from the 10 mobile homes to the more that looks like houses and so forth. I'm up in the Banning area and actually in the area where I live. My home is modular. It's on a permanent foundation and it's considered real estate. Right across the street, theirs look just like mine. If you drive in there, you wouldn't know the difference. Theirs are not attached to a solid foundation. They pay land rent and they sell their homes for $150,000 now. And you go taking off the banning, but you don't have real estate. It's considered like personal property. It's like an RV. It's depreciating. When you build an ADU and it meets all the standards, it is real estate. So it's not only how much rent you can get, it will increase your property value. The investors jumped on this because if I buy a home in Riverside for $700,000, $800,000, I put an ADU on it, I increase the living square footage, it's new construction, the base goes up to that's $1 million home. I can rent those two out and build another one, now it's $1.5 million. And then we're sitting here with the yard saying that's too expensive. It's not simple math. It's return on investment. It's treating your property like a small lot development. Because the other thing when people won't tell you is that, and from a real estate standpoint, say that residential real estate covers structures from 1 to 4 on a unit. Single family homes, duplexes, triplexes, fourplexes. When it gets more than 4 units, it's considered commercial. Commercial is broad in itself. Commercial involves 5 units or more. Any raw land development, no matter what that land is zoned. People say, well, it's zoned residential. There's never been a house on it. It's a commercial transaction. Then you have the retail the manufacturing, the warehouses, all this stuff. So what happened with ADUs, that again is kind of a mindset that we have to understand because it's nothing new. What they've done is taken various principles of commercial and scaled it down and intersected it with residential. So they say you can develop land as long as you have a house on that land. It is cheaper for you to do it because you don't have to acquire the land. And there's certain infrastructure and utilities that are there because you have a main house. So developing on your land is cheaper. We have a crisis. We need you to develop that family, friends, income, generational wealth, whatever motivates you. And so we're going to take what we know in commercial, what we know in residential, we're going to bring it together. We're going to try to empower you and educate you, and people transition, companies transition from building tract homes to doing ADUs. So now this, the basic ADU laws that we're talking about now started in like 2017. So it's been evolving every year. So these people now have experience, and some companies more than others, on building these ADUs. So there's nothing new. It's just they carved out a niche to say all hands on deck. And I saw the gap, so I'm trying to educate and empower people to take advantage of it. Okay? Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so,
Oh, I'm sorry, Barbara.
there's
Go
some
ahead.
neighborhoods that have what we call long skinny.
I'm sorry?
There's some neighborhoods that have what we call long skinny.
Uh-huh.
Like there was a single family resident home out there, and then, the, that was purchased, and then knocked down the mini house, and ended up doing, like made a construction on it. Maybe the first part of the house has, 5 bedrooms, and then the attached second part all the way to the back. And because I have another apartment on it, because I use the same room with 5 or 6 bedrooms too. Um, how is that different?
That's different because if you recall a little while ago, I said that we had been developing two houses on a lot, multifamily on a lot for years. Because we have this ADU opportunity, it hasn't stopped the development of custom homes. People still building mansions. Over in Riverside, up from my clients, um, there's a huge house that's probably over 6,000 square feet up on a hill that just been built like, last year or two, right? He couldn't take advantage of the ADU laws. He didn't build that house under ADU. He couldn't get his plans permitted. He had to go in, like always, and do a land development, and the ADUs didn't apply. The only way ADUs apply is if he says, I'm building this house and I want to show you the ADU because I'm proposing to build, because you have to have a structure in order to benefit from the ADU laws. But you can build that structure concurrently. And that's why some developers now are building brand new homes and it has ADUs already built. So people are getting into this market all kind of ways. But again, to answer your question, he built a custom home. His requirements was not limited by ADUs. You can still go to your city and build a custom home to the standard without taking advantage of the ADUs. Because ADUs have requirements and restrictions. They have no minimum size, but they can only be 1,200 square feet. Then there's a state exempt ADU that says basically the city can't keep you from building an ADU 800 square feet or less, okay, if you can meet the setbacks. Okay, so there's all kind of things, but that's the answer to your question. People are still building mega homes, triplexes, duplexes. Now, once they get them built, or they build them and they want them to be zoned commercial or residential, I mean, they can add additional units. Their ADUs do apply to multifamily, but they're different rules. Barbara, in the back, you.
My question is, for the ADUs, I know you have, is a house, find another house. How do you set that up from like the plumbing, the electricity and stuff like that? Does that have to be put in separate in storage?
Yeah. So what I had said before when we had gotten started, and I'm going to get to my presentation because I'm really going here. But I want to go through, and I thought that one of the best things I could do is to show you the journey of an ADU, especially on the construction, so you can see what it takes. And it doesn't matter whether it's this company or any company. The framework that you see here and what you see happening has to happen on your ADU. Your communication with your contractor is, when is my deliverable? When is this done? The schedule. You'll see what you need to ask. You'll see what you can expect. And even with this company, when you get to the construction, when you get your permits and you have your drawings, we strongly suggest you get at least 3 quotes and then decide. And on the um, consultant side, there is no uniform contractor's bid or contractor's contract. And so a lot of my clients rely on me to go through with them, review the contract, see what the red flags are. The appliances included? Are they not included? Are you buying certain things? Okay. And go through to know what you're really signing up for so you can kind of compare apples to apples, see red flags, and understand who you're choosing to work with. But that decision is up to you. Okay. You had a question, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I know you want to get to your presentation, so this is a general reference question. When you're talking about, you're talking different with the state, and are you talking about this Riverside, when you reference like, only be 1,200 feet in the,
When I reference 1,200 square feet for the ADU as a max, that's based on the state law.
state law?
The state law is an umbrella, and they say, hey, cities, counties, local jurisdiction, you can't be more restrictive than the foundation we laid. But it's new. I always say this ADU thing is kind of like a wave in the ocean that we're surfing. It's starting to build. It has not crest, and it's churning and it's changing all the time. I mean, my husband and I were talking about this story we heard on the news. Gentlemen, coastal areas are totally or have their own issues, but this gentleman built a 2-story ADU, and he built it to 18 feet. At the time, the law only allowed 16 feet. He had attorneys and arguing with the city and doing all this stuff because they wanted him to tear it down, bring it down. It was going to cost him millions of dollars. January 1st this year, they increased the height limit to 25. To 25. But that litigation 2 years ago, okay, had another client. He built an ADU utilizing his friends and everything, and he built it, paid like $200,000 for this ADU on his property. He rented it out. Tenants found out it wasn't permitted. Somewhere along the line, they got kind of teed off at him, and so they reported him. Two-edged sword. If it's not permitted, you can't live in it. So they had to leave. 2, code enforcement then knew about the structure. They came in, and this man had to demolish that $200,000 structure back to dirt because he built it on a commercial lot, and ADUs are not permissible on a commercial lot. But there was a punishment in there because if it was a structure on a commercial, he should have been able to repurpose it to office or something. But they required him to break it down.
If you like what you saw here, please hit the like button and subscribe for more information to help you in your real estate, ADU, and mortgage financing dreams. It goes a long way to get this content out to other people just like yourself here in California. Now, if you are looking to build an ADU, please contact Dr. Sharon Barnes. She is the absolute best resource that you can have for ADUs. If you're looking to finance ADUs, contact me, TR McCarthy, aka TR the Loan Guy, mortgage broker for Sceptre Mortgage. Either myself or one of my knowledgeable staff will help you plot the course to making your ADU dreams or your purchase or refinance a reality. If you like what you saw, please stay tuned. Up next is the second part of building wealth with ADU strategies. Stay tuned because it's coming up right now.